Hello, everybody, and welcome to the front row with me, Jarima. I'm so excited for today's conversation. Just Cass has become just someone I just really love, and I'm so grateful. I was even looking back, Cass, at the first time we met was like almost 2 years to the date. So I'm super
Oh,
excited. It's like April 2019 when I was first starting to do this. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I'm excited just to see, and as you all are coming in, just hear all about his amazing work and just the things he's been able to do, and then also being able to share inspiration for those who are pursuing the arts, want to be writers, want to be directors, want to do all these things. The reason for this platform is that we can just have intimate conversations with those that we admire and want to just really learn more about the background when it comes to the arts. So as you're coming in, share this. If you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will definitely address it as we go. And so I always love to start with an introduction, and so I would love for you, Cass, if you could just introduce yourselves to our amazing audience.
hi everybody. My name is Fracaswell Hyman, and I live in Wilmington, North Carolina now. I was born in North Carolina in Wilson, and when I was just an infant, my family moved to Brooklyn, New York, which is where I was raised, and lived there most of my life, and then spent 5 years in DC and 17 years in Los Angeles working in television and stuff. And then about 8 years ago, we moved here to Wilmington to help take care of my mom. And I've worked in theater, on stage, and behind the scenes, directing, acting. I've written for television shows. Um, uh, Gosh, what I created a show for Disney called Jet Jackson. I'm trying to remember
Yeah.
my life. Um, I did a show for Nickelodeon, with Romeo, and did Little Bill for Nickelodeon, and did Gullah Gullah Island for Nickelodeon. Got some sad news about that this morning.
Hmm.
And yeah, so then I came and moved to North Carolina. I started doing theater again on stage and directing plays and writing books. And I wrote Mango, the Mango series, which will be 3 books. The third book will come out in January, I think.
Okay.
Yes. And the second book is out now. First book's, oh, wait, visual aids.
I'm about to say, come on down, let's show.
First book, Mango Delight.
Yes, yes.
Second book, Summer in the City, which is going to be renamed Mango in the City. And then the third book will come out. And I had the pleasure and the opportunity last summer to work on a show for Netflix called Bookmarks Celebrating Black Voices. And yeah, that's my bio.
I love it because we're gonna uncover all of that. So as you all hear, he has a wealth of just all these different perspectives when it comes to the arts. And so my first question is just like the beginning. So when did you know that this is what I wanted to do? Like this is the path I want to go in as far as like the arts. Was it first the theater that got you? Was it the writing, or kind of as you involved, did things just like, oh, maybe let me try this? I would love to just hear the beginning.
The beginning, as far as I can tell, when I grew up, I watched a lot of TV when I was a little kid. And a lot of people say that it's bad for kids. But to me, growing up in a really rough neighborhood in Brooklyn, TV was my window to the rest of the world.
Mm.
I got to I watched Walt Disney Presents every Sunday, and all the other shows on TV. And I used to watch this romper room show, and every day the lady would come on and say, "Hello, Jim. Hello, Sandy. Hi, Sarah." And I was like, when is she gonna say my name?
Right, what
My
you got?
mom, my mom was like, she ain't gonna say Fracaswell, so just sit back. But I love that. And then there was a show with Diane Carroll called Julia,
Mm.
and she had a son, Corey Baker. And that's how I guess how important representation is, because when I saw that little black boy on the screen, something sparked in me like,
Yep.
wow, he's on TV. Maybe,
Exactly.
one day. And but I think the real thing that got me was when I was in the Cub Scouts, and the parents took our Cub Scout troop to a Broadway show.
Mm.
We went to see Pearlie, a musical called Pearlie with Cleavon Little and Melba Moore and Sherman Hemsley. And I think I was probably about 8 or 9, and I was just stunned. It was like a thunderbolt. Boom, boom, I knew I had to do something, whether it's on stage or wherever. It just changed everything for me. And I started, when I get a little older, I started working in a supermarket. I think I was about 14, started working in a supermarket and taking my money on Sundays and going to Manhattan and going to see a matinee of a play. And so, yeah, that's where it all started. It all started with theater. And then I worked for a theater company that was improvisational. And I wrote some stuff there and came back to New York and wrote some stuff and got picked up by a TV show, Ghostwriter. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. A lady saw a play that I wrote with a kid in Hell's Kitchen in New York and asked me to come for an interview. And that started the whole writing journey from Ghostwriter. And the rest is history.
The rest is history and making history.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So what are like, so once you got into the arts, and I know you shared just some of the, experiences that you had that really were influential, but what are like the inspirations behind the stories and just the work that you connect yourself to? Is it like just what you just said, like being able to see that representation matter? Like, does that matter for you when it comes to all the different decisions you make in the arts?
It matters to me in everything, I think. And it's one of the reasons that I, segued into writing for children, because I knew how much it had affected me when I was young to see myself, to see an image that looked like myself on television. And I think that was what really made it important for me to write so that children could see themselves and each other, so that you could, start to understand that there's so many more things that tie us together
Yep.
than things that keep us apart. And so writing stories about families and about siblings and, even about a ghost that wrote to you, all of that was in an effort to just be included, and hopefully children coming up behind me or as children during the period when I was writing those things would start to feel like, yeah, I can do that. I can be that. I can, share my stories and my experiences. One of the reasons that I started writing Mango was because my daughter, when she was in 5th grade, I think it was 5th grade, 4th or 5th grade, she went to a elementary school here in Wilmington, and I volunteered as a library helper, stacking books in the library. And there were almost no books that had girls like her on the cover, girls that looked like her on the cover in that school library, at least. I mean, if there was one, it was about, so and so escapes from slavery and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my daughter, she started reading a lot of stuff, Junie B. Jones and all these other, chapter books, but there were no chapter books with a girl that had her skin tone, and that's what motivated me to start writing books for middle grade students, because I just felt like there has to be representation. And as we go along, there is more and more representation, which is what I'm really happy about. Unfortunately, a lot of the books that are written with characters of our skin color on it are not written by authors of color. The huge percentage of them are not written by authors of color. I wish I had the numbers right in front of me, so I'm not going to give out wrong numbers. But so I'm hoping, as we move forward and as more people become woke to the situation, that there will be more opportunities and publishing companies and will reach out to more people, and more young people, people of color will start writing their stories, because it's the most exciting thing that's happening right now that I see happening in theater and television and movies is people behind the scenes are telling their own stories for the first time in a long time. And I think that's great. That's a long answer to your question. I'm sorry.
I love it.
Running my mouth.
We just talking though. I don't care. But you know what you said really stood out to me because I realized that starting my nonprofit as I was trying to select books and really just being very mindful about who was telling the story and who was the illustrator. I'm like, wait, I didn't know if this wasn't a Black author. Wait, hold on. You know, just more and more of these books that you see have our faces on it, but they're not written by us. And so I'm always amazed when I meet amazing authors, both either self-published or traditionally published, because I'm like, man, we need to have our voices out there telling our stories. And then when we get our voices, it's so many, the protagonist does so many different things. It's not like the same scenario, like, oh, they're just, you know, lived in this neighborhood. Like, we are such a diverse culture. Like, share all of our sides in stories. I think that matters as well.
It does matter. And I, you know, encourage my daughter and, you know, anybody else to, you know, yes, read, explore your culture, seek out stories about people who look like you, but also turn and look at people who don't look like you.
Exactly.
You know, other people that are marginalized that we need to understand. Like, you know, all this craziness is going on with these attacks on our Asian brothers and sisters right now. And it's like, why aren't we feeling empathy towards each other? You know, and letting, you know, somebody blame a disease on a certain people and then for us to believe it and attack people, it's insanity. So, you know, I think we all need to reach towards each other. I write my books about Black children, people, adults, families, but they're meant for everybody to read.
Yes.
Because we read you, you know.
Yeah. And so even thinking about that, like, was it difficult? So with Mango Delight, and I see some different people sharing who I know are amazing authors. Was it difficult completing your book? You know, because I think there's something different as far as like in the acting world and maybe a script, but like as far as the components, were you already connected with publishers, or, you know, you're like, I see this book is not in my child's library, but how does it go from idea to actually being published?
Man, I was lucky. I was just lucky. I had connections from the television world, and a wonderful woman that I worked with many years, Liz Nealon, introduced me to an agent. You know, she reads everything I do. So she read it, she liked it. She introduced me to an agent, he picked it up. And so I was very lucky. It doesn't always happen like that, but, you know, I guess I put in the work in other ways, you know, because I had to struggle to get, you know, into TV and, you know, or whatever I was doing. But there is the guy that became my agent was a PA when I was working on Ghostwriter. He was a production assistant, non-paid, and I didn't even remember him. But he remembered me and how nice I was to him. So be nice to people.
Yes.
You never know.
All the time. Relationships matter, man.
That's right. You know, and it's, you know, it's not only, you know, who you remember or what, you know, or what you've done, but it's how you make people feel. And you make people feel welcome in the world that you're in. And who knows, you know. So, yeah, that was a stroke of luck because he grew up to become a dang good agent and took me on and sold the book.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time because, you know, even in my work and even as I meet different people, I'm like, where I met you initially, we don't know where life is going to take us and where our paths are going to cross again. And so there's people that I've, you know, bumped into doing this work. I went to high school with. I haven't seen them since graduation, but because of this event, we're reconnected. And it's like, oh, I remember that person. Oh, I remember her. And so, like you said, those relationships, the way you make people feel, all of those things really, really matter in business.
Hey, that's what got me in bookmarks. So you never know when somebody's going to pop up and remember you and, you know, have something to do, bring you into their life and the world.
I love it. So and then we're about to get into these different segments of Mr. Hyman because it's so much. What is like your research creative process when you, so even right now with the series, did you already know, like, I wanted this to be a series? Or did it become like, hey, from this idea, this has to be more of a story told? Like, what's your creative process when it comes to your book series?
Well, with Mango, I kind of mapped out her whole life. You know, I
Mm,
took her from being, 12 years old to being in her 30s. But they don't sell children's books like that. They were like, no, she's middle grade, it's going to stay middle grade. And I'm like, okay. I mean, Harry Potter kind of went, through the years, but
exactly.
okay. So, and then they asked me, to do it for 3 books. And I'm like, cool, I'll do that. But deep down somewhere, there is the continuation of her stories and travels in the business. So I don't know if I will ever write that. But I did start off. I had a complete book before anybody saw it. So I
Mhm.
like to work that way better. It's less pressure,
Yeah.
for me. So I just, I hope that answered that question.
It did. It did.
Okay.
It did. And I just want to let people know who are tuning in. This is a open conversation. We are just, just grateful to have this conversation with Cass as far as his writings and his work. And we're about to get into his different segments of his work. And so, if you have questions you want me to pose, if you are an author, if you are an actor, if you're a director, please pose that, and I will ask it as I'm posing my questions. And so, the first thing I want to get to is acting.
Mm.
Um, which is I feel like you have so many amazing times in your career that you've been on the stage. And I was just looking up a lot of stuff before this interview of like when you were fences and just like all these different things like in your acting career. What would you say are some of those things that were like pivotal moments for you, like man, like these are always always stamps of like man, this is what I loved about acting.
Ooh. When I was in high school, man, somebody tricked me into taking a drama class. And I took this class and we had to do monologues. And I found a monologue from A Raisin in the Sun,
Mm,
Walter Lee. And job, mama, job. And I did it in class and I was so scared. And I only learned my lines. I would practice in the bathroom where my mom and my sisters couldn't hear me. And I learned my lines in the bathroom and I did it in front of the class. And at the end, they were just quiet. And I was like, okay. And then my teacher, Mr. Bob Levy, he was like, wow, wow. And I was like, oh, okay. Everybody clapping and stuff. And that was my first, feeling of actually being able to do something. And it felt natural to me and it felt exciting to me. And from there, man, I just was always trying to get involved in stuff and be on stage. And I had spent my most of my 20s, working as an actor, touring and doing shows in theaters around the country, doing a couple of little movie things here and there. And then after I started working in television, that all went away because I was focused on being behind the scenes and writing and directing and producing. And not until I moved to Wilmington about 8 years ago did I decide to just stick my toe into it again because I was, perfectly retired from TV and I just, had some time on my hands and I had a daughter to raise. And so I started doing plays here, and it's just been a fantastic. It's like finding my first love again, And now I'm old, and I was like, dang, I'm too old to play Walter Lee now. Uh, I'm like, dang, that's the one that got away. But I have found so much joy in doing August Wilson's plays. It just seems like the words just fit so well in my mouth. The way he writes, Fences was an amazing experience for me, to be able to play um, that part and go through all those different feelings and emotions and, just blow my head off every night. I mean, that was the best thing in the world. And then after that, I did a one-man show called How I Learned What I Learned. And that's August Wilson telling his life story. And that was just fantastic too. I would do any August Wilson piece anytime, anywhere. I feel like he writes, knowing where we come from. And but there's also so many exciting players and playwrights out there now, new playwrights doing stuff that it's just an exciting period. So hopefully we'll get back to it soon.
Yeah.
That's
I was gonna say because I normally at the end will ask like advice, but I feel like after each one I would love for you to give. So if I'm currently in theater, I'm trying to, really pursue acting. What would you say should be their focus during this time? Because it has been a very challenging time. I mean, I know quite a few folks here in Chicago who are in theater, and I mean, with plays and things shut down. Like, what would you say that they should be working on or focus on during this period of time?
I think at this period of time is like you can always work on your craft. You can always work on monologue and get together with some friends and stuff and get on Zoom or whatever and perform for each other. Read plays, read as much as you can so that you know what's out there and what's coming up. There's so much stuff now that is, they're doing readings online of plays and stuff. Dip in, most of them are free. Dip in and watch and see what people are doing. But also, you have the opportunity to learn different parts and different characters, and now's the time for you to suit up. So
Mhm.
when the theater opens up again and somebody wants you to do a contemporary monologue or a classical monologue, or they want you to sing, you are ready. You got to be ready, because when the opportunity comes, you got to be ready to jump in.
Yeah.
So perfect, get as close to perfection as you can, working on your things now, because it will open up again. And once it opens up, take every opportunity that comes your way. My family used to make so much fun of me because I did so much stuff for free, but I don't think they understood that I would have done it all for nothing because I loved it so much. And the
Yeah.
money will come eventually, because the more you know people, the more people will recommend you to this one and that one and that one. That'll come, but take every opportunity you can. That's my biggest piece of advice.
I love it. Television. So
Yeah.
television is a whole nother, I feel like for me, looking on the outside in, a whole nother animal, right? And so I think acting on stage versus television and all of that. So what would been some of your highlights in television?
I think working on I've done live action shows, I've done animated series, learning the craft of writing. um I started off, when I got that first job on Ghostwriter, I was a writer's assistant, and I got that job because somebody saw a little one act play that I wrote. And I used to take the subway into Manhattan from Brooklyn, and I would be reading how to write for television when I was on the subway. But when I got into Manhattan, I would put my book away because I didn't want somebody from work to see me and think, oh, he don't know what he's doing.
Right.
So it's about taking those opportunities when they come your way. And I got the opportunity to do that, and to just be excited and be involved and not just do, this is for anybody in any job that you have. Don't just do what's expected of you.
Mm,
Go further. Make them feel like we can't do without her or him. Especially if it's something that you're excited about and that you love, throw yourself in full force and volunteer and say, "Oh, can I come to this meeting? Can I sit in on that session? Can I do this?" Because
yeah.
that's me. And before the end of my first year, they handed me for a 4 episode script to write because I was just so freaking eager. I had never written a script before, but I jumped on that opportunity. When you want to break into television, I would say to folks out there who want to do it now, write spec scripts. A spec script is a script of a show that you enjoy, and you write your own script for that show so that you have something to show to agencies or people that are looking to represent folks. But now times are so different. You can put your stuff on YouTube. You
Yep.
create your own shows, get together with your friends and people you like, and put your shows on YouTube. And look what happened to Issa Rae,
Yep.
going from Awkward Black Girl, to Insecure on HBO. This is happening all the time now, and I think it's wonderful. Even if you're getting little stuff on TikTok to get you noticed. So it is like such a bigger, broader world of opportunity out there now than when I was coming along. So instead of yes, you can write your specs and look for representation, but also if you can find a way to take your phone, because these iPhones now, they could do shoot quality enough for broadcast television. So if you're gonna take your phone or whatever and get down and edit and get with your people who are excited about doing stuff like you, the actors or other writers and camera folks, do it. You can get it there online, and it may be just the ticket that opens the doors for you. So there's no reason to hold back now. If you're passionate about something, go for it.
I love it. And then we're going to lead to now television, and then we mentioned it earlier, bookmarks, right?
Yeah.
So when this came out, when I saw first of all, I was super excited because I love storytelling and seeing all these amazing, people read it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, Cass directed this. This is so awesome. So can you just share, like, how did this, come together and all of that good stuff?
Okay, so one night I was sitting watching TV, and it was about 11:30 or something at night, and I get a text message from a number in LA say, "You up?" Now I'm like, I'm married. What is this?
Right. Oh no,
So I'm like, yeah. And it turned out to be from Jesse Collins, who now runs Jesse Collins Entertainment. Jesse he produced the halftime show at the Super Bowl on Sunday night. He's executive producing the Grammys, and he's also the first Black producer on the Oscars this year. So this man has blown up. I met Jesse when I was doing a show on Nickelodeon called Taina. And every week, one day before we shot the show, we would bring in some comedians to do some script punch up the jokes and whatnot. And Jesse was one of these comedians. He was a young comic back then. And, bring him in, and he's always funny and fast with the jokes. And, I loved having him as a part of the show. From way back then, he got this thing to do this kids thing on TV. And so I get a call saying, "You up?" A text. I'm like, what? So he asked me to come on as a producer showrunner. And I was like, okay, I could do that. It's COVID. We're doing it, cross country on Zoom. And then he's like, oh, how about directing them? And I'm like, okay, never say no.
right.
I hadn't directed in television in a while, but I'm like, yeah, why not? And so we worked for months on this show, pulling it together, having meetings across country on Zoom, and then finally got to fly out to LA and work with all these terrific people telling these stories. We have a brilliant man, Dr. Kevin Clark, who created the architecture for what the series is and decided which books to choose by what we wanted to express to the young to the children and the families out there. So it was just like a dream that kind of dropped out of the sky.
Wow.
Be careful how you treat the people you coming along with, don't you?
Seriously. I mean, and even you talking, so one of my students, he's on here, Blair, and he's one of those people. Like, he has a show he's doing on YouTube, and he wants to direct and all of that. And so, Blair, I'm hoping you're really listening to this, because I think it's, like you said, it's all about really the connections and relationships. And you just never know. You just have to be ready for that opportunity. Like you said, I haven't done it in a long time. That doesn't mean I'm going to pass on this opportunity.
Heck no. No way, man. And it was such a great opportunity. I worked with such great people. I mean, his company, Jesse Collins Entertainment, is just top notch. They're a young lady producer, Dion Harmon, who's genius. And, they're doing all of these things that I'm just so impressed with them. And it's a completely Black-run company, Black-owned company, and a terrific crew in LA. And then meeting all these people, meeting Jacqueline Woodson, who's one of my hero writers,
I love
and getting to direct her, and Tiffany Haddish, and oh man, all these folks with Peter Nyong'o and all these folks that I'm like, whoa. It was just a dream. It was hard work, but it was a dream. I can look back and think of it as a dream. Yeah, most definitely.
So, I mean, it really feels like you've done so much. What do you desire next? Like, do you feel like there's something you still haven't had your hands on, or what do you feel like is next for you?
I have, well, there's a book that I'm struggling with right now, but I don't want to talk about that because it's like the seven depths of darkness that I mean, you look at stuff and in hindsight it's like, oh yeah, that was easy, or people think it's easy, but it's not. It takes a lot. And there's a lot of sometimes suffering that goes along with trying to wait, or not wait, but get inspired. And so yeah, that's something I'm doing now. I also have a book that I wrote that's huge, and it's not a children's book.
Okay.
And it's called The Maze of Stunted Trees, and it has not gotten picked up yet. And so I've taken it back, and it's been out of circulation for a couple of years, and I'm waiting to have the time when I can go back and look at it with fresh eyes and do some more editing and rewriting, because I love this story and I love the characters, and it's the kind of book that I want to see when I walk into Barnes and Noble, and it's up there on that table with new novels and all that stuff. So yeah, that is the biggest aspiration right now, is to get on the New York Times adult bestseller list.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which we already know is gonna happen. So
I hope so. I really do. It's just the last place, the last thing. Well, I guess I shouldn't say the last thing I want to conquer, but I do. I really do want to see this book have its own life out there. So fingers crossed,
it's
eyes
crowd.
crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed. Yeah.
Well, for each, segment, I always close with a question, depending on what we're doing around this time of year. So as you know, March is Women's History Month. And so I've asked each person who I've interviewed the last couple of weeks to shout out a queen, who's someone that either past, present, don't even know, but they're my inspiration. Like, who would you say is some influential women that you have come across or you currently have in your life that you would love to just kind of give them their flowers?
There's a couple. Um, I look up to Ava DuVernay,
Mm,
who has done shows on television. She's done movies.
yeah.
She has created a way of working that brings people along, because you have to reach back and bring people along and give them the opportunities that they don't get just in the mainstream media. So I admire her. If you haven't seen her documentary on HBO, I mean on Netflix, called 13,
Mm,
13th, I mean, it's just amazing. It's extraordinary. And so I look up to her. I look up to Gayle King,
mm.
because I watch her in the morning. I call it the Gayle King Show. It's not the CBS News. It's the Gayle King Show. And because I think, she's breaking down walls. And they have a new producer. I wish I knew her name, woman of color. And I'm watching it. And, this since this new Black woman executive producer came on, I really wish I knew her name. But she's been telling stories that don't get told on CNN and other networks, and highlighting people that don't get that kind of shine. That's why, representation is important. That's why mixing it up for who's making the choices in these studios is important. So yeah, that's somebody I want to shout out to. One more shout out to my mom, who we lost last year,
Mm.
but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her and her encouragement and her excitement, and her just lifting me up. Everything I did, even the things I'm embarrassed about, she always thought they were wonderful. And everybody needs somebody. I know your son has that in his life. Everybody needs that. That strong person that loves them unconditionally, and that in my mind, when I was out there on my own, running around my 20s and 30s, and I'm doing this and that, and I would always think, what if my mom caught me doing that?
Mm.
And it would make me not do that thing that I knew would not please her or would embarrass her or make her feel hurt. So yeah, I have to shout out to my mom, because she's a queen in my world, and I know in ways she's still
Yeah.
I still think about what she would say if I was doing something wrong. So yeah.
I love it. So at the bottom, I have your website. I wanted to know what would be some of the ways that people can stay connected to the work that you're doing. Just if they wanted to learn more, what beyond your website, is there any other place you would want them to go?
Well, on my website, there's a way to contact me. It'll come right in my email. So I answer everybody and be in contact with everybody. My first name for Caswell on Instagram. I'm at for Caswell because I figured there's nobody else with that name, so it's not gonna get mixed up. So you can always totally reach out to me there on Instagram. I love hearing from people and talking to people. I've had a few Zoom conversations with aspiring people who wanted to write for TV or television, or books and stuff like that, because, there were people that were really kind to me along the way that
Yeah.
I have to only keep giving back because each one teach one, each one reach one. And so, yeah, I'm in that period of my life when it's give back time.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
think it's so important, as you said, like we all got somewhere because someone took time and invested in us, and so
Hmm.
I'm always like that. Like I always have a million one things going on, but I'm never too busy to respond or ask, answer a question or, we just have to share. I think if anything this year has taught me just the importance of relationships and valuing people and not making people feel as if they're, you can get to that later because you don't know if you can get to that later.
You don't know if you can get to that later, and you don't know. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody, don't send me your screenplay. There's only
Like,
so much I can
really?
do.
Let me email him now.
I'm trying to crawl out of the darkness right now, so I can't read everybody's book and everything, but I can encourage you. I can reach out to you. I can talk to you,
Yeah.
and who knows from there, because I definitely definitely am trying to repay the people that have helped me along the way. And there's been a lot of shoulders that I've stood on, and I'm grateful to this day. So
And
here
can
we
you share? I don't think I've ever asked you, where does your name originate from? Because I definitely have never met another Miss.
for
I just have
as
never.
well.
I want to figure out this story.
Okay, so my father made this name up when he was in high school, saying that he would name his first son this name. I mean, obviously, he wasn't paying attention to what was going on in class. His mother's name was Francis. He had a brother named Kaz, and his best friend's last name was Braswell. So he put all that together to make for Caswell, which used to be the bane of my existence growing up in school, and nonsense, people making fun of you. They'll take any little thing they could do and
Hmm.
call me all kinds of names, some of them obscene, just way of playing with the words. And so, but I've grown into it. I am me. If you look up for Caswell, you're only gonna find one, as far as I know. So there
I love.
you have it.
Well, let me say this, because we're at the end. I am so grateful for you, Cass, and as he shared, like being able to, if you reach out to him, reaching out. When I reached out to Cass back in February of 2019, I had just started my organization. I remember emailing you and being like, "Oh, would you be willing to come on and talk?" And you're like, "Sure." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he responded back." And so I think just those kind of things matter because it helps us who are out here trying to encourage and build and do to know that what, this is really a part of just our village, like giving back and really just supporting one another. And so even you taking the time to do this, and I know you have so much on your plate, I want to just tell you I'm grateful from you even reaching out to me when you didn't even know who the heck I was, to even the second time being willing to. I just wanted you to know it really does matter to me, and I appreciate it.
Well, I just want you to know what you're doing really matters to me. And we are a part of this community and this tribe. And for you to be out there encouraging kids and families through the arts, through reading. And I mean, I just think that is a fantastic thing. And hopefully there is a lot of people are taking advantage of your resources, because Man, reading opens so many doors, and the arts opens so many doors and inspires so many people. So keep doing what you're doing, because I am in your corner. I'm a fan, and I think you are one of those strong sisters that should be celebrated this month also.
Thank you, and I can't wait for us to meet in person. I'm so serious. Like I want to come to when anything. I remember when you were doing your play. I'm like, I got to get out here, and then the world just shut down. So we'll see.
More to come. More to come. I hope.
More to come. More to come. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all who've been tuning in and commenting, and I see you viewing. Even if you're watching the replay later, this has been an awesome opportunity for us to learn more about Mr. Hyman and his work and just all the amazing things that he has done and more to come. And so thank you for joining us for the front row. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.